Taiwan braces for Typhoon Krathon, which is already causing mudslides in the country's east. More trouble for former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je as an investigation into corruption widens. Taiwan and China clash on the meaning of a 1971 resolution that Beijing says prevents Taiwan joining the UN. Plus, Ireland's first female president visits Taiwan and shares her experiences with the country's most promising students. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Taiwan is bracing for Typhoon Krathon, which is forecast to make a rare direct hit on the country's populous west coast. The storm's eye is forecast to make landfall on Wednesday, with potential winds of over 220 kilometers an hour. Joyce Teng has the latest.
Mudslides caused by strong winds and rain. The impact of Typhoon Krathon is already being felt in eastern Taiwan before the eye of the storm has even made landfall. These landslides caused by the storm's outer current trapped 8 vehicles and 14 people who have since been rescued. With potential winds of over 220 kilometers per hour, Typhoon Krathon has prompted land and sea warnings across much of the country's south to alert people of the potential threat to lives and property.
目前正逐渐的在影响我们，从现在直到星期四的上半天是它影响我们最明显的时候。
Forecasters say the storm's eye will arrive at the major southern port city of Kaohsiung by Wednesday. From here, it will continue moving northwest, likely bringing torrential rains across Taiwan's densely populated west coast. Though the country is no stranger to typhoons, they rarely directly strike the west, instead often battering mountainous areas in the east, where much fewer people live.
这一次在西半部的沿岸也会有很大的风力出现的机会，所以整个台湾大概都要注意风的状况。
The last typhoon to hit Taiwan, Typhoon Kemi, in July, packed sustained winds peaking at 230 kilometers an hour and killed 11 people. With winds just as strong expected this time with Typhoon Krathon, some domestic flight paths and train lines already suspended in anticipation. Meanwhile, some residents who have only just recovered from July's typhoon are feeling helpless as they brace for another. For now, it's unclear whether schools and offices will be closed and in which areas. But authorities have said that more than 2,200 soldiers and 1,000 rubber boats are standing by across the country to help evacuate people as needed amid expected torrential rain in the coming days. Scott Huang and Joyce Sin for TaiwanPlus.
3 weeks after former Taipei City Mayor Ko Wen-je was taken into custody over a property corruption scandal, Taipei prosecutors have detained 2 more suspects, one of whom has pleaded guilty to bribing city officials under Ko. Helene reports.
Appearing up at the Taipei District Prosecutor's Office with his hat down for the second time, this time with no way out. Zhu Yahu, former president of real estate developer Dingyue Development Corp., is the first person to plead guilty to bribery in a scandal involving former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je. Prosecutors say there is ample evidence suggesting that city officials took bribes from the developer to help raise a shopping mall's property value during Ko's time in office. Former Director General of the Mayor's Office, Li Wenzong, who directly handled Ko's finances, was also brought in for questioning, alongside Zhu, who insists he did nothing wrong. Ko's party, the Taiwan People's Party, has distanced itself from the case.
李文忠已经被开除了嘛？对，所以说这个他是前案已经不是我们的党员，北检有多少证据就办多少事。
This is the second corruption case Li has been caught up with that involves Ko. In August, the TPP admitted false reporting of campaign expenses and political donations when Ko ran for president in 2023. Li, who was the party's finance chief, apologized for not being careful enough during auditing, not knowing he would be paying over $6,000 in bail on suspicion of forgery in early September. Some officials already suspect a connection between the 2 cases. as city councilors say numerous donations for the TPP came after city officials lobbied for the shopping mall project.
推金的那集体的一笔捐款进去哦，那事实上我看到还有很多所谓个人，好在当年度也突然有一个30万的捐款，真的是个人还是人头哦？我想这个北检也应该会列为清查的项目。
Prosecutors are holding Zhu and Li incommunicado as the investigation into the possible links between the two cases builds in what could determine Ke's and the party's future. Fu Huahong and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
The Kaohsiung District Court has ordered a city councilor held incommunicado over alleged corruption. Police had raided offices of Huang Shaoting of the opposition Kuomintang last Thursday, only to discover that he had flown to China just hours before. In a statement, Huang said the trip had previously been scheduled but did not provide a return date. Police were waiting for him at the airport when he returned to Taiwan on Sunday. Prosecutors allege that Huang embezzled public funds intended for assistance. Taiwan has responded to China's comments at the United Nations General Assembly that a UN resolution from decades ago gives Beijing the right to represent Taiwan in the global body.
这一决议彻底解决了包括台湾在内全中国在联合国的代表权问题，明确不存在两个中国，不存在一中一台。
联大第2758号决议的内容既未提到台湾，也没有确认台湾是中华人民共和国的一部分，更未授权中华人民共和国在联合国代表台湾。外交部要求中国停止误导国际视听。
UN Resolution 2758 was passed unanimously by the General Assembly in 1971. It switched representation for China's seat at the organization from the Republic of China, Taiwan's official name, to the People's Republic of China, or PRC. Beijing has used the resolution in recent years to justify blocking Taiwan's participation at UN bodies, such as the World Health Organization, and in international sport competitions, where Taiwan is usually required to participate under the name Chinese Taipei. For more on China's use of UN Resolution 2758 to prevent Taiwan's participation in the organization, reporter Chris Gorin spoke with Professor Ian Chung of the National University of Singapore.
Has China always emphasized UN Resolution 2758 to justify its Taiwan claims, or has this ramped up over time?
So the use of UN Resolution 2758 to lay claim to Taiwan is a relatively new development. So previously, the PRC had just laid claim to Taiwan based on history and so on and so forth. There was some reluctance to use it in previous periods because the resolution itself has no language referring to Taiwan. It is only about the representation of the China seat at the United Nations. So the PRC, I think, is trying to create some sort of legal basis for its claim within international law, within the body of international law. But it could open the door for lots of other reinterpretations of lots of other things by other actors. That could create a lot more messiness that I'm not sure Beijing has fully anticipated.
Has China's interpretation of the resolution been persuasive to other countries in the world?
So states that pay attention to the issue, they do, and they're saying that this is a distortion of what is actually in the text. Now, states that don't pay attention to cross-strait issues, and there are many of them, that would be most states in the world, I don't think they've really said stuff either way. There have been some legislatures, like the one in the Netherlands and Australia, have been pushing back through their own resolutions. And the US, I think in Congress, there is some move in that direction.
What about in Taiwan's domestic politics? How do the different political parties view this issue?
So within the context of Taiwan, the Democratic Progressive Party has been calling for a resolution that basically rejects the PRC claim. The KMT has been emphasizing that they would only go along with something like that if the resolution includes language about readmitting the Republic of China into the United Nations. The ROC is Taiwan's official country name. I guess this part of the debate within Taiwan is, how and what to enter the United Nations as, whether it's Taiwan Republic of China, parenthesis Taiwan.
Is this purely a cross-strait issue, or do you see something more going on here?
I mean, the back and forth is, on the one hand, a cross-strait issue, but it does, I think, also highlight Beijing's effort to reinterpret a whole bunch of other international agreements. This includes UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, where it rejected the arbitral tribunal that was convened under Annex 7, and then also the Sino-British Joint Declaration on Hong Kong. So the issue for the PRC is if they create a track record of reinterpreting texts outside of their original meaning, that could create larger commitment problems for them when they make a promise. Others would be more likely to second guess or to wonder whether Beijing will keep to whatever they've said.
That was Professor Ian Cheung from the National University of Singapore. Israel is continuing to launch airstrikes across Lebanon, as Beirut says it's dealing with a significant humanitarian crisis 2 weeks into the escalated conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. As Rosie Greninger reports, international leaders are calling for diplomatic solutions as the war opens up on a third front, Yemen.
Smoke billows over Lebanon as Israel continues its airstrike assault against militant group Hezbollah. Heavy bombing in the south, north, east and the capital Beirut has left the country struggling with a major humanitarian crisis. Over 1,000 people have been killed, more than 6,000 wounded, and up to 1 million displaced and living on the streets. In an emergency cabinet meeting, Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati pressed for a diplomatic solution, namely the implementation of the UN's 2006 Security Council Resolution 1701, which calls for a full cessation of hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel.
فبالتالي خلينا نوفر الدماء ونوفر اللي عم بيصير ونروح على تطبيق الاتفاق، لانه نحن لبنان لا يزال يؤمن بالمجتمع الدولي، يؤمن بالشرعيه الدوليه، يؤمن بالامم المتحده، بوقت غيرنا كلياته لا يؤمن الا بشريعه الغاب وشريعه القوي اللي عم تاكل الحق للضعيف.
But Israel has vowed to continue targeting suspected Hezbollah infrastructure with the aim of disarming the militant group. They believe this would allow Israelis evacuated from their homes along the border with Lebanon to return home. By fighting Hezbollah, which is allied with Hamas in Gaza, Israel hopes to pressure the Palestinian militants in the enclave to return the hostages they took nearly a year ago.
אנחנו נחושים להמשיך להכות באויבינו, להשיב לבתיהם את תושבינו ולהחזיר את כל חטופינו. אנחנו לא שוכחים אותם לרגע.
Hezbollah is not deterred, despite Israeli airstrikes delivering serious blows to its command ranks. The group's longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in a target strike in Beirut. The damage from that hit so extensive it took 2 days to locate his body. Nasrallah was an influential figure in the Middle East, with close personal ties to Iran. There are concerns that his assassination could draw that country into the conflict.
از نظر ما آمریکا شریک این جنایت هست و به هیچ وجه نمیتونه خودش رو جدا بکنه از این واقعیت و مسلماً خون شهدای این حادثه بی پاسخ نخواهد موند و ما حتما در کنار لبنان خواهیم ایستاد.
Along with other world leaders, US President Joe Biden has renewed his call for de-escalation. He is again set to speak to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to urge a diplomatic solution and step back from risking all-out war in the region.
We really have to avoid it. We've already taken precautions relative to our embassies and personnel who want to leave, but we're not there yet, but we're working like hell with the French and many others.
But as international powers plead for calm, the conflict has opened up on a third front in Yemen, with Israel striking a power plant and port in the country in response to a missile attack by the Iranian-backed Houthis. The growing exchange of fire, leaving the calls for peace, seemingly falling on deaf ears. James Lin and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Ireland's first female president has been in Taipei, sharing her experiences with some of Taiwan's most promising students. Mary Robinson came to Taiwan to accept this year's Tang Prize for Rule of Law. Harel Hughes reports.
A warm smile and a handshake from former Irish President Mary Robinson as she meets students from some of the most prestigious schools in Taipei.
And first and foremost, I must say that it is an honor to be sitting here with the one and only Mary Robinson.
Robinson, now 80 years old, became Ireland's first female president in 1990, seen as a key moment in the country's journey from a conservative and religious nation toward a more liberal society. After stepping down in 1997, she continued her work as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and later UN Special Envoy on Climate Change, fighting for equality and justice around the globe, experiences she shared with the students.
You know, believe in what you're doing. Have faith in that you're doing the right thing. And so that carried me forward. And then just briefly, when I was elected president, my whole attitude was, I'm going to do a better job precisely because I am a woman. I know that.
Robinson was honored with a Tang Prize in Taipei a few days earlier. The Taiwan-based awards are given out every 2 years and recognize researchers around the world who, its organizers say, address issues critical to humanity in 4 categories: sustainable development, biopharmaceutical science, sinology, and rule of law.
Professor Robinson has constantly shown to the world her powerful advocacy on behalf of the most disadvantaged, and her passion and endurance demonstrated a smart combination of legal acumen and practical solution to enhance rights and justice.
Professor Ye, please present the Tang Prize medal to Professor Mary Robinson.
Robinson was the only woman to be awarded a Tang Prize this year, in recognition of her decades of work in law and human rights. Previous prize winners include primatologist Jane Goodall and the scientist who developed the mRNA-based COVID vaccine. In her acceptance speech, Robinson addressed world leaders and their shared responsibilities to the planet.
And last but not least, what can leaders do individually and collectively to move the world in a new and more hopeful direction, in which rule of law is once again viewed as a core element of accountable governance systems, dedicated to achieving a peaceful, just, and sustainable planet for all.
She had a similar message to the students of Taipei, as she continues to work as a global leader, trying to focus the world's attention on human rights issues, urging youth participation, especially from the female students, through humor and collective responsibility, and setting an example for the future of Taiwan. Luffy Lee, Scott Huang, and Harel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, Taipei Fashion Week aims to bring Taiwanese fashion to the world stage.
As a kid, I thought about living in a big city, and now I've had that dream.
When I came to Taiwan, it was a real eye-opener for me. The Chinese culture was far more alive here.
I fell in love with the country very fast because the cultural richness in such a small place.
If we have a mixture of so many different cultures, we can absorb the strengths of each of these different cultures.
If I want to do something, just do it. Yeah. So I feel so free to challenge anything.
Taiwan is really my homeland. I kind of grown up here, you know. I learned to become kind here.
I wanted to be a doctor or a professor. I'm on the way. Taiwan has fulfilled all my dreams, all of them.
It's just a magical place. I don't know how else to put it. I think Taiwan's probably my home, but to the end.
Cultural Crossings, coming Monday, September 30th, 8:15 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Japan's new Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru has called a snap election for October 27th. Ishiba made the announcement while naming his administration's top leadership. He says he wants to hold an election as soon as possible to secure his mandate as Prime Minister. He replaces outgoing Prime Minister Kishida Fumio, who resigned following a corruption scandal and increasing unpopularity with voters. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced new defense support for Taiwan. Biden has approved $567 million in new equipment, services, and training, the highest amount of such funding on record. Beijing has condemned Washington's continued sale of weapons to Taipei. Taiwan has been complaining about a growing backlog of delayed weapons deliveries from the U.S. The devastation caused by Hurricane Helene has left over 100 people dead in the southeastern United States. Hurricane Helene has disrupted critical infrastructure in 6 states on the east coast of the U.S. One of the worst hit is North Carolina, where a massive cleanup effort has started. The hurricane destroyed roads and bridges and thousands of homes and businesses. Torrential rainfall from the storm caused widespread flooding from the Gulf Coast of Florida to as far north as Virginia. Estimates suggest the damage caused by the hurricane could range between $15 to $100 billion, making it one of the costliest storms to ever hit the United States. Floods and landslides caused by days of heavy rainfall have killed at least 190 people in Nepal. Rescue and cleanup efforts are underway as dozens remain missing. Cadence Karanta reports.
Scenes of destruction in Nepal. After days of heavy monsoon rains triggered floods and landslides across the nation. Some areas saw over 30 centimeters of rainfall in one day. The disaster has left 190 people dead and over 100 injured, closed major roads, and damaged homes, schools, and businesses. As water levels rose, some residents took to the rooftops to escape. The country's capital, Kathmandu, was hit hardest. People wade through deep water, their homes caked with mud, while roads connecting the city to the rest of the country remained blocked by landslides. Many barely escaped with their lives, their belongings swept away. As rainfall began to slow on Sunday, rescue efforts got underway. Authorities have pulled dozens of bodies from vehicles buried under landslides and uncovered people trapped under rubble. At least 3,600 people have been rescued, but dozens remain missing. More than 5,000 police officers are involved in the efforts, using rafts and helicopters to reach people who need help.
Total as such 17 plus 14 भनेपछि 31 भयो आज. आज र हिजो गरेर total calculation 31 छ. 31 जना.
And people are cleaning up their houses and belongings. Deadly floods and landslides are common in Nepal during the monsoon season at this time of year, but experts say climate change has made for more extreme weather events. Some also blame the state of the country's infrastructure for the scale of the damage, as climate scientists have urged the government to make improvements to underground stormwater and sewage systems. But for now, authorities are focused on this latest disaster and finding more survivors. Ryan Wu, Hank Su, and Cadence Karanta for TaiwanPlus. 2
Taiwanese basketball players have been arrested on suspicion of match fixing. Authorities suspect the two players who played for the Zhanghua BLL in a semi-professional Super Basketball League placed bets with the bookie and then worked to affect the outcome of games for payouts. The men are suspected of profiting around $3,000 last season. The arrests are part of an ongoing investigation into match fixing in the league. After questioning, both players were released on bail.
因为他们会先取得出赛球员先发候补球员名单，那在针对说他们两队如果达成共识的球员在上场的部分，他们会在某一节或某个时段，他们会达成共识说我要怎么积极进攻，或是消极进攻，借此来控制比分的大跟小。
Taipei Fashion Week has given fashion fans a sneak peek at some of this year's hottest looks. The outfits are based on a theme, Taipei Type Fashion Atlas, which explores Taipei's urban fusion of historic streets and modern architecture. The show aims to highlight the diversity of Taiwanese fashion and showcase its uniqueness on a global stage.
其实你怎么样在潮流里面，在这个大的世界的潮流里面放进你自己的在地的这些流行的元素，不管它是颜色也好，是小的 icon 也好，是一些文化里面长出来的一个暗示型的设计也好，这些如果能放进去，它就会在国际的舞台上跟别人有所不同。
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with these images from around Taiwan. Typhoon Krathon's power is already visible as the storm nears the country. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.